All right, so we got the Senco mopeds in, just offloaded them off of the delivery truck. Got a little stuck because these are a little heavier, and I ended up breaking the pallet. So unfortunately, got to have some assistance from my buddy to be able to get up. So we're assembling the mopeds for Senco mopeds. It comes in a little cage. You got to take the top off the cage, and then you got to put things together. So the first thing is you put that on. Next thing I'm going to need some help with is getting the front wheel on, cutting all the wires that are holding it to the cage. 49cc moped. So you're going to open her up like this. And this is what you're going to see on the inside. Wrapped up in here. It's got the brake lever on it compressed, and it's zip tied. So one thing to remember about the front is you're going to have to put this wheel on, so you don't want to compress that brake caliper. There's also a little plastic shim that they shove in there because inevitably people probably squeeze that thing and then, you know, get the pads stuck together or whatever and have a hard time putting the front wheel on. So we're gonna go ahead and zip these bolts out and get this thing. So this is what the finished product is gonna look like. So we've already assembled these two. This is the gray color, that's the black color. And these things are pretty rad, not gonna lie. I mean, we've got pleather seats, we've got the speedometer. This guy's got 26 miles on it. We're getting these scooters broken in so that we can rent them out. Located here on the central coast of California. Got Senco mopeds. And yeah, people can rent these for 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, or long-term rentals. All right, first thing you're gonna wanna do when you get a moped from China, you're gonna wanna cut these bad boys off. Inside, we've got our sweet 49cc moped. So you're gonna open her up like this. And this is what you're gonna see on the inside. So when you get everything unwrapped, there's going to be a front piece, which is basically like your front cowl. There's going to be a little front fender, I guess, and then we've got our front wheel. The hardware that you see down there is just the little bolts that were left over from this. Yeah, so all that. First, we're going to put on the wheel, and then we're going to put that stuff on kind of after we've done an oil change on it and swapped out the gear oil on it. So yeah, with this thing all empty, this is your gas tank. So this is where you're gonna want to get her filled up. Inside of here you can access the carburetor and a little bit of the motor, so if you need to do carburetor tuning. So yeah, so once you get it to this point, then it's just a matter of taking this front bolt out. And don't throw this front bolt away because that is actually your front axle. So we're going to pull this front bolt out, we're going to lift this thing out of here, and then we're going to get the front wheel mounted. So once everything's out of the little boxes, here's what you're going to have. You've got your battery up at the top, you've got your mirrors. These little plugs are like little caps that cover some of the holes on the deck. You've got this super awesome, helpful, useful operating guide. That was sarcasm, of course. And then you've got your little toolkit. This is going to be your battery cover right here. And then we've got our hardware up here. So actually, before we take it out, what we want to do is pull this big bolt, this washer that has a rounded side on it, and this nut. And we're going to go ahead and mount our handlebars to the bottom of the scooter. So with all the busyness that we have going on here, what we want to do is make sure that the things that have cables in them are pushed off to the sides, preferably the side that actually, like the wiring harness right here is on this side. So we want to push it that way. We want to just make sure that, you know, like our brake line is over on this side, so we're going to push it that way. We want to make sure that we have a little bit of clearance in here so that we can get to this hole. So what you need to do is make sure that the top is fully seated over that hole, just like so. And then we're going to go ahead and put this washer on the front with the rounded part like that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get this guy in there like so. You might have to wiggle it a little bit to get it all the way through. And then this nut's gonna go on the back. All right, so the head of this is actually a 15, not a 17. The back of it though is, so I'm gonna use an extension, grab onto the back of it, and then just crank her down until she's nice and tight. When I say nice and tight, I mean like really nice and tight, because I had one that was loose and it was not fun. One. Oops. Don't want to strip it out though. Two. So you get two. That's exactly, that's how tight you want it. Nope. Okay. All right, so as you can see, it's a bit of a struggle to get that thing out of there by yourself. Probably better to have an extra set of hands. Once you get it out, you want to throw it up on this center jack stand right here by pushing down on, there's a little deal right there, boop. And then we'll get that front wheel thrown on right here. All right, so once you get ready to assemble the front wheel, what you're gonna wanna do is take the little baggie off this thing. There's a spacer in there. And what you're gonna wanna also do is pull this little shim right here. Get this guy out of here so that the brakes can actually fit in there. So you wanna make sure too that you put a little bit of lubricant on this front axle. I'm using what I have, which is just the Lucas Oil Red and Tacky. I'm literally just gonna spray a little dab on here and slide her in. That way things are lubricated within the inside. So you're gonna put the wheel on this way with the brake on the side that has the brake caliper, okay? You're gonna wanna put your spacer right in here. So this little guy that came with, all right, so this is a pain to get lined up because you have to get your disc brake in between the pads in there and have the spacer in, get the bolt in and all that. So it takes a little bit of effort to get it there, but once you get it there, you're halfway there. So the other part of it is gonna be, this is the speedometer. So you gotta get the speedometer, see that bar in there? That needs to get lined up with these marks right here. And I usually smear the grease around a little bit. And then you slide this guy on, bring the wheel up, push the axle the rest of the way through, and put the nut on this side. So you want to make sure too, you go through and just double check all these bolts down in here. You want to double check all these bolts as well. You want to make sure that everything's tight. Make sure that your rear axle is on tight. You really don't want anything loose. Thing you want to do before you put a battery in it, before you air up the tires, you want to take whatever shitty gear oil these things came with and you want to drain it out and put fresh gear oil in it. You want to do the same thing with the engine oil on the other side. So you've got a 10 mil right here for your fill for the gear oil and a 10 mil down there for the drain. You want to get both those popped off and just let it sit for a little while. And then we're just throwing some generic Walmart brand 80/90 gear lube in there for the break-in. Next thing you're going to want to do is get the shitty oil out of the motor. Pop that open right there, drain the oil out. Once it stops draining, put the plug back in, fill her up right there, and then she's ready for a startup. We changed the gear oil and we changed the engine oil. I don't know what comes in them from the factory, and so I really just wanted to get it swapped out because it could be mineral oil. It looks like normal oil, so someone might have put real oil in there, but just swapped it out. We had some 1040 for the engine, and it's like a half a quart, at least that's what I saw on the dipstick. And then I've got the 80W90 for the gearbox. So anyway, we're gonna put the battery in this hot rod and then put a little gas in her and fire her up. So I forgot to mention, obviously you want to make sure that you're connecting your black, which is your negative, to the negative side of the battery right here, and your red, which is the positive, to the positive side of the battery. It is a very tight fit, so I kind of put the battery in here first and then kind of shove the wires in. So anyway, I think we're about ready to go ahead and start this thing up for the first time. Just gonna throw, I don't know, half a gallon in here. Start it up and let it idle for a little bit. And then if it's running good, we'll go ahead and put the plastics on. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get this thing fired up for the first time. We went ahead and put our battery cover on, as well as these little covers that cover the bolts. Make sure you check these and make sure they're fully snug before you ride this thing. So you wanna pull in here, make sure that that's in the run position, keys on, give it a little gas. All right. So she's out idling right now. We're gonna let her get warmed up. Run it for maybe 10-15 minutes, just doing some very light throttle like that. See how it's stalled. We're gonna have to start it up, get it warmed up a little bit, and then take it for a test spin. All right, so she's been idling for maybe 5 minutes now. We're gonna just slowly start to increase the RPMs. You can do little throttle twists. On my other mopeds, I marked out half throttle on here because the first, I'd say probably 100, 200 miles, you know, the first tank or two, you really don't want to go over half throttle to get it broken in. We went ahead and threw the mirrors on, and then there's the little handy dandy wrench that comes with the kit. See, it's 12, it's 14. You can really get it snug down there. So we got the front fender on. There's 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3, and there's a little piece that clips into the back. You have to get all these little guys lined up, and that snaps right in, and then you snug up the bolts, and then there's that, and then we go ahead and put on the front fairing. All right, so we slapped the plastics on it. It's looking pretty mean. Gonna go ahead and do some very gentle riding on it for a little while. You don't want to run it more than like 15 minutes at a time in the beginning because you will blow these up. Probably put like 100 miles on it, and then you can go full throttle. All right, we got all 3 of the mopeds assembled. Gonna get them broken in and then get them out there for the world to rent. So if you're visiting the Central Coast of California, hit us up at Senko Mopeds. We'll get you fixed up. Super fun to ride. 4-stroke, you just add gas and go.